bring in KT Guttenberg, joining us via Skype from Munich this morning. Sir, good to have you on the program. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hello from a sunny Munich, although there are dark clouds over Europe at the moment.
And of course, you are the former German Minister of Economics under Merkel. We want to get your ideas and get you to weigh in terms of what the impact would be for Europe if, in fact, Britain were to leave.
If Britain were to leave, it would be an economic disaster for the UK and a political disaster for the European Union. Having said that, I am also slightly optimistic today that they might remain, but we still have to be utterly cautious in that very respect. So we would have a first starting point of further disintegration in Europe. Others would most probably follow. There is a huge nervousness already also in the Netherlands, in France, in Finland, in Denmark, even in Germany. Eurosceptic voices are also on the rise. So if the UK would leave, I see Europe on the verge of collapse.
Yeah, but KT, we were just talking about this with Niall Gardner, of course, former foreign policy director under Margaret Thatcher, who said, I don't understand all the hype. The truth is if Britain were to leave, they would have more independence. They would be first in queue to do new deals over the next 2 years. Everybody would want to do trading, free trade arrangements with the UK. So what? It was a good decision not to join the euro currency, that Britain kept its British pound. Maybe this is a good decision as well.
The problem is that this first step coming from the UK would probably be contagious. We have had Europe and the EU in crisis for the last couple of years, and just to think that England or Europe and London stepping out of the European Union would strengthen the other part is a sheer illusion. So therefore, they are also trying to build up a picture which will never evolve, which cannot ever evolve. And that's a problem also for the UK. If the UK has to deal then with a further disintegrated, with a further fragmented, with a further weaker Europe, it cannot be in their interest. And so I cannot follow that argument of Mr. Gardner.
Mr. Guttenberg, James Freeman here with the Wall Street Journal. The big knock on the EU is that its bureaucracy has gotten out of control. It's hostile to innovation. You don't see Facebooks, Googles being created in Europe. What is the value that the EU is adding here?
The EU has been in rather significant trouble over the last couple of years, and it has not been true, as many pro-Europeans say, that the EU grew stronger out of any crisis. It was actually the opposite. So yes, we have a rule of technocrats in Brussels. We have not very much innovative and creative skills when it comes to actually facing European realities. And European realities are concentric circles that already exist. It's a weak shape of the Eurozone. Realities are different speeds. We've always lived up to the dream of a Europe of equals, which never existed. A Europe of equals didn't exist in the Europe of 6, of the 9, all the way up to the 28. It actually is the opposite.
Yeah.
So the only thing that could happen is a wake-up call now that they finally come to terms and reform themselves.
Well, to that point, KT, if the EU and the European government, if you will, is so broken, do they need something like this to actually make reforms and change?
When they needed actually the debate we have seen so far, although I didn't like the style, the tonality, and also the amount of dirt we have seen in that very debate in the UK. But the only good news out of the whole thing is that it could, regardless how it turns out at the end of the day now, it could finally lead to what many call the necessary wake-up call to get a grip on sclerotic treaties, on sclerotic institutions, and also on a rather undemocratic system. So it is a chance, of course, but it is, I fear, if we have a Remain call now, tonight or the following night now, that the EU would just lean back and keep muddling through, and that would be a disaster for all involved.
KT, let me ask you before you go real quick, do you think the euro has been a failure?
The euro would have been way stronger if we would have started with a political union and then would have come up with a monetary union. We did it the other way around, and in that very regard, it is unfortunately a very weak system.
Okay. So it hasn't worked the way you wanted it to work.
It could have worked better.
You're stopping short of saying it's a failure. But KT Guttenberg, good to have you on the program this morning, sir. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.